Okay, Kristen, I will pass it off to you for a little introduction before we get started.
Thanks, Natalie. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Kai. I'm the Decarbonizing Program Schools Manager. Really believe in electric school buses. So I'm really excited to promote this opportunity and chat a little bit about how this program can plug into our other K-12 schools program for specifically school building. So excited to see you all here and chat about ESBs.
Awesome, thank you, Kristen. So now I'm going to get into my presentation. So a little bit of the agenda for today. So we're going to be talking about the fiscal 26 electric school bus grant program overview, some program requirements, and ineligible projects. Then we're going to get into the evaluation criteria overview, key grant features, and then the fiscal 26 Decarbonizing Public Schools program Kristen will be presenting on today as well. Okay, so just to get right into it, so this is going to have around $5 million in funding from the Moore-Miller administration to advance the Climate Solutions Now Act to purchase and lease electric school buses to serve Maryland public school students. So a few of key details for this program. So the application deadline is December 16th by 3 p.m. Eligible applicants are going to be the local educational agencies, and then fleets and private vendors who are operating on behalf of these LEAs. In terms of eligible vehicles, so it's going to be any keyword publicly funded school bus procured by an eligible entity for the routine transportation of students for school or school-related programming or activities is eligible for consideration for this program. And then retrofits or buses funded by other state grants are ineligible for this program as well. And lastly, this is a statewide competitive application process. So that means that, as I touch on a little bit later in the presentation, we evaluate each application and then decide if we're going to award or do non-awards. Okay, for program requirements and ineligible projects. So some of the requirements include replacing diesel buses, model year 2010 or older diesel buses, or the older diesel buses in a fleet, whichever comes first. The vehicles have to be domiciled in Maryland for a minimum of 3 years, and this is mostly because of the reporting requirements that I'll touch on a little bit later. Data sharing with MEA for 3 years, including bins, the routes, charging usage, etc. That ties into the reporting. And then private vendors or nonprofits who apply on behalf of these LEAs must be in good standing with the Maryland State Department of Assessments and Taxation. And then additionally, nonprofits also shall provide evidence of a contractual agreement with an LEA at the time of the application. This is to show that we see the LEA and the nonprofit or vendor are working together hand in hand to make this project possible, and everyone is on board. And then in terms of some ineligible projects, so buses previously funded through MEA's Clean Fuels Incentive Program, Alternative Fuel Infrastructure Program, the Medium Duty, Heavy Duty, Zero Emission Vehicle Grant Program, or previous fiscal 25 Electric School Bus Grant Program grantees as well. And then lastly, retroactive funding for already purchased vehicles. So the vehicles have to be purchased once you receive the grant agreement, so nothing can be purchased before that is completed. Okay, so some evaluation criteria overview. So the evaluation goals are to ensure fair, unbiased, and timely reviews. We also aim to prioritize overburdened and low to moderate income communities. And then in terms of the breaking down of the points that we have for this grant program, so the total available points is 100. The application quality is around 10 points. Project cost and funding request is 15 points. The emission reduction benefits is around 30 points. Project planning and schedule, once again, is 30 points. The project communication and partnerships is 10 points. And then project equity is 5 points. So to get into the description of each of these key criteria, to give you a little glimpse into what we look at when evaluating these applications, for the application quality section, it's really just looking at, has the applicant provided a detailed description of this project that they're looking to do? For the project cost and funding request, we're really looking to see if there's a clear budget provided that outlines the total project costs, the requested vehicles and infrastructure that will be financed or purchased. The applicant also specifies how costs may be not covered by this grant at MEA will be met, including grants, rebates, tax credits, financing, any information we have to see that this project is going to be fully funded or mostly funded through MEA and other sources. And then also a complete and current bus fleet list and associated vehicle information is also provided so we can support the cost estimates that are going to be included in this grant program. In terms of the emission reductions benefits, so this is really looking at that the applicant has clearly described projected air quality benefits, including reductions in criteria of pollutants, greenhouse gas emissions, and fuel savings. We also are looking at, for this part of the evaluation, if the applicant has identified whether the fleet operations serve or are located within these types of overburden and low moderate income communities. And then lastly, if the application is looking at environmental justice priorities as well. And then for the project planning and schedule, just seeing if there's a good plan that they have in place to complete this project, either current or future or both, so we can kind of see what their goals are for this grant if they were awarded. For project communication and partnerships, this one is very unique in that we're looking to see, are you working with your utility? Are you working with your PTA, your school boards? What partners are you using to see that this project can be completed and come to fruition? That's very important for us to see. And then lastly, project equity is really where we look at Title I and the low to moderate income communities and see if they are prioritizing these types of students and communities so that this program will help those students. So that is pretty much all for the evaluation criteria. For the key grant features, so in terms of the money and how much we have for this fiscal year. So like I mentioned, we have around $5 million for this fiscal year. We are offering up to 120% of the incremental cost covered for new electric school buses. So this incremental cost is really looking at the difference between the electric school bus price and the diesel price or gasoline price, and then 120% of what that difference is. In terms of maximum award caps, so it's a little bit less this year than it was last fiscal year because we have less funding. So for this fiscal year, it's going to be $1 million per grantee. $1.5 million will be for applicants who have an address that is located in an overburdened and low to moderate income community. And the maximum cap on requested charging infrastructure is going to be around 30% of the total project funding request. And then in terms of the funding scope, so what funding do we have for this program? When I designed this program last year and for this year, we wanted to make sure we were really including all the things that a school district could look for this type of project. So that means we have funding for buses, chargers, and other associated costs, which include project startup costs for EVSE and facility training. And then lastly, school district technician training as well. And then lastly, we also recognize and want to note that the electric school bus and charging infrastructure in this program can also be stacked with other programs as well. Okay, so continuing on, so I touched on this a little bit earlier, but for the reporting requirements for this program, so as stated, reporting is for 3 years once the buses and everything is in place, installed, and everything is being utilized. So there are those operation reports for 3 years. That is usually looking at mileage, energy use, are there maintenance issues, any information that can be provided at that time. Before the vehicles, the buses are being purchased and in service, and the chargers as well. We require quarterly progress reports on the status of the project. And any other pertinent information that will be helpful for us to understand where you are in this process. And all these reporting requirements are once a grantee has been awarded the grant agreement. And lastly, we like to look at telematics data is also encouraged, not required, but encouraged, so we can see the efficiency of the buses. And then replacement of diesel buses as well is something that we are looking to have more information on. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the grant application. So we used this last year as well, and we're using it again. So we have the JOT form, which is used to submit for this program. There are two main attachments that we have for this program. That is attachment A, which is for the electric school buses, and then attachment B, which is for the EV chargers. And so now I'm going to show you all a few different pages. I'm going to show you guys the actual electric school bus webpage on MEA's website. And then I'm also going to show you what the JOT form looks like. So you can kind of see firsthand what all the tabs are you have to fill out and just a little bit of information on that. So I'm going to first show you all the electric school bus program webpage. Okay, so this is the webpage, and the reason why I'm showing you this is because there's a lot of really important information on here you want to look at before you even apply. So as stated in my previous slides, the program purpose is here. You have the eligible applicants and vehicles. We also have a funding diagram, which shows the kind of funding amounts and what that looks like, which I'm going to show you as well right now. So you can see visually what that looks like. And let me see this. I can make this a little bit bigger. May have to be right about there. So let me make it a little bit bigger for you all. Okay, that's as big as I can make it while fitting in the screen. So this is showing, this is on the webpage as well, but this is showing kind of the breakdown of all the costs that are included in this program. So like I stated, 120% of the incremental cost of the electric school bus. We have charging infrastructure funds for that. Up to 30% of the total project funding request is there. For the project startup for EVSE and facility planning. So for this fiscal year, we increased it for LEAs. So it's 300,000, but it's broken into two categories. So an LEA can request up to 200,000 for this type of facility planning and EVC planning. And then a private vendor or third-party contractor or anything of that sort, they can request up to 100,000, but only 25,000. So up to so 25,000 times 4, so they can only get up to 100,000. So it really just depends on how many they can get per county and school district. And then for technician training, we have about 7,200 for that. And then also we understand that there are other state programs as well out there. So that's why we have this in here. I'm going to go back to the program webpage for you all just to finish this up. So funding information, and then this is where there's a lot of really important information for you all. We have the deadline. We also have the funding opportunity announcement, which I highly encourage everyone to read before they apply to the program. And they can reach out to me. My email I'll put in the chat, so you all can reach out to me if you have any questions. The two attachments that will be needed. And then also we have the webinar today, and there'll be another webinar on December 3rd as well for this program. So that's all for the website. I'm now going to transition to the JOT form to show you all what that looks like. Okay, here we go. So this is the application form that we're using. And essentially, I'm not going to get too in depth, but I want to show you guys there are a lot of tabs at the top, and so I'm going to show you what's in each of those really quickly for you all. So in the first one, this is essentially just showing you an overview of what you're going to be doing in each of the tabs. So we have the instructions, the project narrative, and all this information that you will insert in the next few tabs. The two attachments for the school buses and the chargers, and then a checklist, the lease information if you're using that route, and the applicant signature. And then some information on what the submission you need to make sure you're looking at when you hit submit, and all of that. And then once you review this first page, then you'll go into each of the tabs. So this is where there will be general information on the applicant, general information on what that's going to look like. We're asking for a primary point of contact as well. And then also a signatory name if that's different from the primary point of contact. That helps us when we're doing the grant agreements and commitment letters, so we know who is going to be signing. So that's the first tab. The second one is going to be supplemental project information. So this is going to be asking, have you submitted for other funding sources for this type of vehicles or chargers? Will the vehicles be owned or leased? Are they going to be registered in Maryland? Will you need technician training? The total number of Title I schools in the district, and then also just the total number of schools in general in the district. And then have you reached out to your local utility to discuss this project. So that's basic supplemental information. And then this is kind of the beef of the application. It's the project narrative. So a lot of information on will you need funding for the EV plan? What are your current and future plans? Where will the ESVs operate? Mileage, hours, the fleet replacement schedule, and a few things along those lines. And then these next two are attachment A and B. So you'll be able to upload those two in this part of the application. And then just a little checklist, make sure you have everything you need. And you can upload all your documents here. So we're just adding all this stuff. And then also I mentioned earlier that we need a site host letter of commitment if it is not an LEA applying, if it's a third-party vendor or another fleet. So we have that here as well. And then we need the quotes for the proposed EVC equipment and installation. So we have that here as well. And then the last part is a signature. So that's pretty much what the application looks like. There's a lot in here, and you can start it and you can save it, which is really great. So if you need to come back to it, you have that option. So that is pretty much all I wanted to show for the web page, the jot form, and then the diagram. I am now going to go back to the presentation, and there will be plenty of questions for you all to ask at the end. So feel free to hold off for there, or you can put them in the chat as well. Okay, so this is showing, I know it's a really small, so I do apologize. This is showing one of the summary tables, specifically the electric school bus one. So it's just showing kind of what's in this sheet, what you would need to have ready if you do submit for electric school buses for this program. It's kind of just looking at specific information in terms of the vehicle make, model, are you replacing buses? If so, give us that information, the estimated mileage for the vehicles, and just some other important information in terms of purchasing, leasing, and all that type of stuff. So just showing what that's going to look like. And then some available resources I wanted to show you all. So the World Resources Institute has created really great resources for school districts and staff who are wanting to electrify their fleet. So I'm going to show you guys these really quick so you can see what they look like. And I also put the links to these in the chat for you once I'm done presenting. So let me show you the first one. It's going to be a step-by-step guide for school bus electrification. So let me show you this one. Okay, so this is a really great step-by-step guide to school districts who are looking to maybe apply for school buses and just kind of learn more about what this process might look like. So there are 5 steps in this step-by-step guide. One is foundation setting. The most important part to me is always the charging infrastructure. So how are you getting that planned out? Operations planning, procurement and installation, training, testing, and deployment, and then performance, benefits, and scaling. So a lot of great resources in here that you guys can utilize. This is free for you all to look at and look at, see how you could get more involved. But I wanted to share this resource for you all. Very great. The next one I'm going to show you all is going to be the Electric School Bus US Buyer's Guide. So this one's really great. This kind of gives you a little bit of insight into what the market is looking like. This was updated in 2024, so it might be a little bit out of date, but it still gives you a really good insight into what you might find when trying to purchase electric school buses and good vendors and stuff like that. So a lot of great resources in here if you want to look at the buyer's guide. And then the last one I'm going to show you all is going to be the working with your electric utility. This is one of the most important parts of the project that you might look at, because working with your electric utility is going to really help create a successful project along the way. So starting to work with them before is the most important part to see how they can make it work for you for this project. So this is just talking about how your utility is your key stakeholder in doing this transition. And there's some resources that you can use, such as there's a planner for electric school bus deployment. And it kind of goes over, how do you start working with your utility? What questions to ask them, and other key considerations. So a lot of good resources there as well. I am going to go back to the presentation. Awesome. Okay. Okay, and so now I'm going to pass it over to Kristen to present on her program. And while she's doing that, I'm going to put some links in the chat for you all that I've discussed, so you can follow along and start looking at those.
Thanks, Natalie, and hi, everyone again. I'm really excited to be here and support this program. I've been a long advocate for clean energy and electric school buses because they are simple and strategic solutions to reducing energy loads for school districts. I run a program at MEA called the Decarbonizing Public Schools Grant Program, which is really focusing on the building side of school districts and reducing energy and promoting clean energy solutions within that building. So this year we are launched and ready and are accepting applications at the moment. These are for specifically public schools and school districts. And there's a couple of areas of interest in which we fund. School districts and LEAs are able to apply for multiple awards in each category and apply for awards, apply for one for each if you wanted to as well. So AOI 1 is really looking at energy management and net zero energy portfolio planning. So there's two categories there. The first is energy data management. So how can we get your your utility and energy data into a platform that makes it easy for you to analyze it and look at where are the inefficiencies, and so you can address them. LEAs in the past have applied for this multiple years and go deeper each year to get even more fine-tuned into their energy data management. And things like, the actual platform itself, working with a consultant, or even hiring someone at your district is eligible under that category. Category 2 is looking at all of your portfolio of schools and building a plan to reach net zero energy for each of them, both for existing and new construction, and developing a really strategic plan to address those issues so that you have a long-term goal that you're working towards. And, what I would say about all of these really is be creative and make them work for you, and look at your current, projects and schedules, and be creative in how you apply for this, and what money or what strategies you're going to use this money with. AOI 2, our most prescribed area, that's energy efficiency capital. So things like putting in new doors and windows that are going to make your building envelope even tighter, or switching your fossil fuel boiler to an electric system. Anything that's going to remove carbon emissions from your building operations and either make it electric or make it more energy efficient. Again, when I talk to LEAs about how to plan for that area of interest, is look at your current schedule and understand what are the things coming up already that you're looking to replace, renovate, or upgrade, and how can you tap into money and make it net zero or more energy efficient or electric. AOI 3 is our solar on schools, both third party or direct owned. There are census tract eligibility criteria. You do need to be in an eligible census tract, but if you are interested in talking about that, I can follow up with more information. And then lastly, net zero energy schools, that's really what are the incremental costs in order to get a new construction building into net zero territory. So those can be the planning, the consulting of the actual design, or it can be, you can tap into that funding for the actual technology. So, geothermal wells, or adding the solar, or, putting ICF structure on your building, things like that. So anything that's going to be the incremental cost of achieving net zero energy. And if you will go to the next slide, Madeline. So as I mentioned, applications are open right now. They are due in November 21st at 3 p.m. So please talk to your teams. Again, I will emphasize what I think is awesome about both of these programs is that there's opportunity to look at what is currently on your schedule. We don't want you to be doing projects that are completely outside of your current scope, but what are you currently working towards, and how can we make that, clean energy, more electric, or more energy efficient? And this, we can tap into both of these programs at once. I highly encourage it. If you're looking at energy management and bringing ESBs on, there might be an energy spike due to the charging, but how can we go at this at dual sides and make sure that we're being smart about our energy solutions while also bringing in more electric components for both transportation and the building itself. And then additionally, there's opportunity to put solar on your bus depots to promote or to replace the energy that you're going to be using to charge the buses themselves with clean energy. I think one of the things that I also hear from our grantees, from both programs, is how willing MEA is willing to listen and hear about your specific needs and find solutions that work. So I highly encourage you to reach out. Natalie just dropped mine and her own email in the chat. Reach out, talk to us about what your ideas are and how we can find a solution that is eligible for funding under these programs. So really excited to be here. Love talking about electric school buses and how we can promote these technologies in our districts. And with that, I will pass it back to Natalie.
Yeah, I'm Sophia. I'm here with Natalie right now, and we had a little bit of an internet issue, so she's currently trying to log back on, just so everyone's aware. Just give her about 5 seconds.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks. Any questions that are out there, maybe specifically for me? I can try to answer any questions that are specific for Natalie, but feel free to, Adam.
Can you describe the incremental cost a little more? Like, is it the full cost of the electric bus, or is it the cost of replacing a bus minus the difference?
I think, and Natalie might need to clarify that, but my understanding is that it would be what it costs to replace the bus minus the incremental cost of the actual electric school bus technology. So, if you're replacing a bus for $1 million normally, but it's a $2 million price tag with an electric school bus, that 1 million would be your grant opportunity. But maybe Natalie could speak a little bit better on that. I think that also includes the charging infrastructure that is needed on top of, just replacing a bus. Sarah, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. I was just going to jump in because I'm assuming that this is similar to the previous round, and I broke this down with the school district last time. So while we're waiting for Natalie, from my understanding, the incremental cost on the school bus side would be basically the cost of the electric school bus minus what it would have cost you to buy a diesel. So yeah, sort of like Kristen said, if your electric school bus is $350,000 and a diesel is $150,000, and you would subtract 150 from 350, leaving you with what is that, $200,000 to put towards the price of the electric bus. And I think I saw Natalie pop back on.
Yes, hello. So many technical difficulties today. I'm so sorry, folks. Yes, so I can answer the incremental cost question. Adam, thank you so much for your patience. So for this grant program, it is genuinely just going to be for the buses. The difference between whatever the electric school bus is and the diesel. So whatever that difference is, you then multiply by the 120%. And then that is what you would get, or 1.2, and that is what you would get for a potential grant amount for the buses alone. Did that answer your question, Adam? I'm so sorry about the technical issues I'm having.
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, essentially, we need like a replacement bus to apply for this grant. My problem is I have a lot of people that are very resistant to electric vehicles, and I have to figure out the right way how to sell this to them. And I'm thinking start small, maybe with like a electric Sprinter style bus that we use for our family in transition. And I know we already have conduits in place for the charging stations over here in the Y-High parking lot. So I'm really trying to piece this all together. But main thing I need now is numbers.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and Adam, we can definitely set a meeting up to discuss, that. I would love to do that and just kind of hear, where you guys are going and potential solutions. So more than happy to set up a meeting to discuss that with you for sure. I understand there is definitely a lot of, it's difficult sometimes just to kind of bring up the subject and kind of how to, you're right, it's all about the number game. It really is. So I'd be more than happy to set that up and discuss that further with you for sure.
Okay, I'll send you an email and I'll try to include our transportation director.
Awesome. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes, Kevin, go ahead.
Hi, so we don't own a single solitary bus at this point. This would actually be the first thing that we would even be purchasing as far as a bus goes, but it looks like you have to have an old diesel bus to be able to do this.
So, great question. So, what are you, so that means you most likely have contractors who, correct? Who
We are 100% contracted.
Contracted. Okay.
But I was asked to take a look at this and see if we as a school system might be interested in purchasing one or two electric buses.
So I would definitely be open to having that be discussed, because if you were 100% contractor owned, you would never, you're right, to your point, you would never have any to really replace because you don't buy them yourselves or
Right.
use them. So I would be open to discussing that and seeing if that's a possibility for you all.
Okay.
'Cause I understand that's a barrier and you can't control that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So definitely open to hearing more, Kevin, and would definitely set up a meeting if you'd like to discuss it further, for sure.
Cool. Sounds good.
Awesome. Great question. I appreciate that insight. Anyone else with any other questions? I'm gonna address one that was in the chat from Melissa about can you only apply for EV charging infrastructure? So you theoretically could. I would say that is a possibility. It would just necessarily need to show that one, potentially electric school buses are potentially in the future going to be utilized and purchased. Is essentially would be more of a game in information of what is your current and future fleet plan looking like. Because I would definitely love to fund that type of project with the stipulation that further down the road, electric school buses would be of interest. But Melissa, if you want to touch on that a little bit further, please unmute and we can discuss that, or we can always set up a meeting as well.
Hello, yes, we can set up a meeting separately. We actually have 2 EV buses on order. So we received money from a prior rebate program, but I was told to get on the call because, of course, we want to trial the 2 first. So we're not ready to put in for more EVs, but I was told to get on the call and see if there was any possibility for infrastructure. So we're in the process of getting things worked out. So I don't know if a separate meeting would be good.
No, that is very good context. So and yes, that is all that I would have really needed. Yes, so if you have those buses on order and you got that, through other funds, that would definitely be eligible for sure. Because yeah, you definitely need those chargers and you want to get funding to cover most of that cost for you all. So definitely that would be eligible in my eyes for sure. I'm really glad you brought that question up.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome, of course. Any other questions in regards to the program, Kristen's program, specifics, anything of that sort? I would say one more thing to note is we do not currently have the fiscal 25 awardees of this program up on the webpage, but we will be having that posted soon. We got a good mix of awardees for fiscal 25 for this program. Mostly were some school districts, some were third-party contractors, as well on behalf of the LEAs and contractors. So a good mix of folks. So a lot of that is really good information that I use to hopefully, make fiscal 26 a little bit more smoother for everyone. But please feel free to reach out with any questions you guys may have for my program and for Kristen's program. And there, like I mentioned, there will be a second webinar on the electric school bus program. That will be December 3rd from 10 to 11 a.m. That one, a drop form link to register will be going around soon. And so a flyer. And that webinar is going to be a kind of bit of a mix of talking with fiscal 25 grantees who were funded and to discuss their experience working with electric school buses previously and with this new grant that they got in fiscal 25. And then we're also going to be discussing a fleet transition plan for school districts and school bus depots. So there will be information on that as well to learn more. But if there's no other questions, I really appreciate you all being here today. A follow-up email will be sent out to you all with what we discussed in the presentation and just our information so you can reach out to us and learn more about these programs.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Natalie. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks a lot.